So let me share a template I have here I built for today. So here, as you can see, we'll build 3 tables, 2 static, 1 dynamic. And let's start with the first one, which is the billing info. So we have the seller information, the bill to information. So basically the customer information. And to start, I'll add a 3-column, a preset layout. Let me just delete this here. Okay, this is fine. So basically what I'm doing here, I will use the left and right columns to hold my data, and the middle one I'll just use it as a spacer. So let me put this here. Oh, sorry, 45. Here also 45. There. So let's add my company information. I'll also work with you on styling a bit the template. So here I'll have the company name, which will be this one. About it content. Let me bold. Let me increase the size a bit. Yeah, maybe if I just type it in. Let me work on the spacing again. Have it bold. I'll increase the size a bit. Okay. And now I'll have the address. So let me remove the voting, decrease the size. I'll add another box, text element, to have company information in it. Okay, nice spacing. And now I'll move to the customer info. So let me just duplicate this so I can maintain the formatting. I'll replicate this to the other one. So here, instead of having a static data, I'll have dynamic. And now here, let's add dynamic data about the customer. So attention to the name. I'll also have the address. The city, state, space, and zip code. And lastly, country. And it's not on the same line just because of the size of the field name. But once we have real data filling this in, everything will look perfect. And now let's add the email. Okay, let's have a quick look, see how it's coming along. There you go. If we want to add some borders, we can have different ways of doing that. Maybe I'll also add a spacer here because this data is a bit too close. So let's reduce it here. Maybe 20. Yeah, I think this will look nice. So say I want to add I don't want to divide this by space, but I want to have a border instead. So I'll just delete this column. Don't worry, this will look nice. Let me just duplicate it here. And look at this one. Okay, we have it now. And I'll select this column. I'll just open the contents pane so you can check a look at the structure we currently have. So I will add a border to this column right here. So I want this to be right in the middle. So I'll go to the properties of the column, add a right border. You can increase the width of the border so you can make it thicker, thinner. It can below 1. You just have to type it in. And let's have a gray color. Sorry, let's step away a bit. So I like gray here. Let's add some style and have a quick preview. Okay, a bit too light. Let's have a darker gray here. And preview. There you go. So we can also increase the size, make it look more visual. But if you want something more simple, you can also have that. So here we have it. If you want to add some space, like for the border to the other column, you can also do that, accessing the column properties. So let me add here a padding to the left side of this column. So it's not that close to the border we just added. So the sky's the limit. So feel free to add the formatting you want, make it look as nice as possible. We have just one space here. Let me delete it just so I have everything aligned. Okay. And now let's go to the items of the table. I have here some fields. So I'll pull my list from invoice items. So I have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fields, but in the header, I'll just have 6 fields. So let's add here a row. Remember, the row is the holder. The elements, you can have a column in it. I have another row in it. You can have many layers. So feel free to explore this layout element. I'll have here 6 columns. And I'll style it for now. Unit price. And tax rate. And lastly, our total. Okay, they all have similar widths, so I will work on this a bit. So for instance, description, I might need a bit more, and I can squeeze quantity a bit because it's a small number. So we can have this unit price and total. Total can also be smaller. 16. Tax is also smaller, so maybe 10 will do. Unit price. I'll put it as the total. So 16. Quantity, we can make it smaller, as small as possible. I'll increase a little bit of my item name. Okay, I think we have a good ratio. So once I have let me delete this for now. Once I have the header, just so you can replicate the same width of the columns into your table, into your dynamic table, you can just, let's again, use the contents pane so we can see how it looks. You can select the row directly from here, but you can also select the text and click on this arrow right here in this toolbar and select the parent element. And then I can just duplicate this. And now, instead of the dynamic information I have here, I'll just delete this static text. And I'll add my fields from invoice item. So I have here item name, item description, quantity, unit price, tax rate, line total, and unit. So I might have a different unit here for the quantity. So let me, okay, it's all right now. And now I just have to set up a loop as we saw on a previous video. So just go to edit logic, repeat loop section. Under the field list drop down, I select the collection field holding my data. So I'll save it, and this is already looped. So let's have a quick preview of how it's looking. We'll need to format a bit the numbers. Okay, so let's align it. Let me center the unit price. Same thing with the values. Same thing with text, center, and total. Let's align it to the right. And let's add some style to the number. So this is a currency, 2 decimal places. This is a tax rate, so it's a %. Save, line total, also a currency, 2 decimal places. We can make it bold just to call more attention. So access the properties of the token, and let's have a preview. Okay, it's coming along a lot nicer. So we see that it's currently not having highlighted sections. So let's highlight them. Let me give the header a bit of a background color. Also selecting the row, accessing the row properties. Maybe have something flowish according to the style of the header. Okay, let's make it bold. Okay, let's have a look at how it's coming along. Okay, we're starting to get there. And now let's try some borders. We had a static border set up here, and to set up bottom borders for the items of the list we have, we need to add it to the column of each item we have here. So it can be repeated for each item. So let me add here a thinner bottom border. I'll also add like a gray, and I'll add the same thing to the other border or other fields. So let me just copy this color here. This will help me. Paste here, 0.8. Same thing here. I'm in the text now, so I'll access the column. Let me go to the content so you can see what's happening. Bottom border, 0.8. I think I forgot to set up a border bottom. Yeah, now it's done. Bottom, 0.8. Paste in the color. Same thing here. .8. Okay, good. So now let's have a look at how borders are coming along. Okay, nice and aligned. We can also align a few more things like this, for instance, when it has more than one line for the description, it's aligning at the top. So we can make it align at the center of the column. So we can do this for all of the text elements we have here in this repeated list. So I'll access the column. In its properties, I can align it vertically to the center. Do the same here. And here, let me align the content in the middle and the text element. Now let's access the column. Align in the center. Same here and here and here. So let's have a preview. And there you go. It's coming along nicely. I'll show you here an example of when you set up multiple borders. So let's add a border to the text element. It might not look so nice. So that's why sometimes we have overlapping borders and the final document doesn't have that professional look. And this is essentially how it would look if we had multiple bottom borders. So the best practice when you have a list of items being repeated is to have the borders at the column level. And this will make sure that the template will align nicely. So you see, they might not be aligned correctly. And when you have two borders at the same spot, but in different levels of elements, they can overlap and be a bit thicker. So the best way, as I shared previously, is to have borders only at the column level when you're setting up a loop like this in a row. So let me remove it. You can also add borders to the side of the elements. So we can, again, using the column, okay, all right, here and here. So we can have a table with more sections. So there you go, nicely aligned, beautiful display. And that's essentially how we set up borders on a looped level. So everything's aligned. We access the column properties to align the content we have in the middle of the column. So when we have multiple lines, everything's perfectly aligned at the center. So last but not least, let's add another static table for notes and terms and conditions. So let's do this by, yeah, we can use it here. Let's add, I'll do the same step I did for this one. I'll have a column at the middle to give it some space. So here I'll have 45. I'll also have 45 here. Let's add a text element. I'll do something similar with what we have here. So let me reduce the spacing here. Have a bold content, increase the size of the letter a bit. Here I'll have my notes. And let me duplicate this. Just unbold and reset the size of the notes. So I'll have here my content. And another thing we can get there, since we have the same formatting, we can, after adding the content, we can just duplicate the column. Let me delete this one. And we can move things around. We can use the handle we have here, or we can also access the content pane and use the handle we have here. So many ways to resize it. And now let me just duplicate it to correct the width. So I have here 45. Here I'll also have 45 width. Okay, and now let's add the actual content, which are terms and conditions. Let's have a quick look how everything is coming along. Okay, let's add some bottom spacing here to section this a bit and have a quick look. And as I said, this sky's the limit. You can play around. You can make this a bit smaller just so we can try and match the same line height we have for the terms and conditions to make it look nicer and more, have a nice ratio of the items, have them aligning nicely. So that's essentially it. Thank you very much for watching. And if you have any questions, please feel free to bring them up.